Let me paint you a picture. A couple finds out they're expecting. They're excited, they're nervous, they're doing what every responsible soon-to-be parent does. They start Googling. How much does a baby cost? They find a number. Maybe it's $10,000 for the first year, maybe $15,000. They look at their savings account, they do the math, they nod. We can handle this. And they're right, they can handle that number. What they can't handle, what nobody warned them about, isn't the number they found. It's the number that never showed up in the search results. Because the real cost of having a baby isn't just what you spend, it's what you stop building. And those two things are not even close to being the same. Here's the mistake almost every new parent makes, and it's not their fault. When people think about the cost of a baby, they think in expenses, diapers, formula, a crib, childcare, maybe a bigger apartment. These are real costs, painful costs, but they're visible costs. You can see them on your bank statement. You know what hit you. What you don't see, what doesn't show up anywhere, is the opportunity cost. The wealth that didn't get built while you were busy surviving the first few years of parenthood. And here's the psychological trap. Our brains are wired to feel the money that leaves our account. We feel that $300 stroller purchase. We feel the $1,800 monthly daycare bill. But we don't feel the $500 we stopped investing. We don't feel the retirement contributions that got paused. We don't feel the side project we abandoned because there are simply no hours left in the day. Pain that's invisible doesn't feel like pain, but it is. It's just delayed. Let's talk about compound interest for a second, because this is where the real story lives. Imagine you're 28 years old. Before the baby, you were investing $600 a month into an index fund. Nothing crazy, just steady, boring, consistent investing. At a 7% average annual return, which is a pretty standard long-term market assumption, that $600 a month grows into something remarkable over time. Now the baby arrives, and for 3 years, just 3 years, you pause that investment. Not because you're irresponsible, because daycare costs more than your rent did in your 20s, your income might have dipped if one partner cut hours, and survival mode doesn't leave room for investment contributions. 3 years feels short. It feels manageable. You tell yourself you'll get back on track. But here's what those 3 years actually cost you. That $600 a month over 3 years is $21,600 in contributions you didn't make. But the real loss isn't $21,600. Because of compound interest, money making more money, that $21,600 gap, left to grow for 30 years, becomes closer to $160,000 in lost wealth. You didn't lose $21,600. You lost $160,000. You just won't see that loss until you're 60. That's the hidden cost. That's the number nobody puts in the parenting books. And it doesn't stop at the investment pause. Think about career momentum. One partner, statistically still most often the mother, frequently steps back from work. Maybe they go part-time. Maybe they take a year off. Maybe they turn down a promotion because the travel doesn't work anymore. Each of those decisions has an invisible price tag. A $15,000 raise that didn't happen at 30 doesn't just affect your income at 30, it affects your income at 35, because your next raise is calculated as a percentage of your current salary. It affects your income at 40 and 45. Economists call this the motherhood penalty, and research shows the earning gap created by stepping back early in a career can compound, much like interest, over an entire working lifetime. One pause, decades of ripple effects. Then there's what researchers call lifestyle creep with a baby-shaped trigger. Before kids, maybe you were pretty intentional about spending. You cooked at home, you tracked your budget, you knew where every dollar went. Then you have a baby, and the mental load triples overnight. You're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, and suddenly you're paying for convenience in ways you never did before. Grocery delivery, takeout 3 times a week, subscriptions you forgot to cancel. Little things that feel totally reasonable when you're running on 4 hours of sleep. None of these feel like financial decisions in the moment. They feel like survival. But survival, over 3 to 5 years, has a price. Here's the deeper idea, and this is the part that most financial advice completely misses. The cost of a baby is not a one-time event. It's a financial season, and seasons affect the long-term weather. Think about it like planting a tree. If you plant a tree at 25 and water it every year, by the time you're 55, you have a massive, deeply rooted tree. But if you plant the tree, then go through a few years where you stop watering it, not because you don't care, but because life got incredibly hard, the tree doesn't die, but it doesn't grow the way it would have. And a tree that loses 3 years of growth in its early stages never fully catches up to the one that was watered consistently. Money works exactly the same way. The early years of compounding are the most valuable. Missing them, even for the most understandable reason in the world, has consequences that last far longer than the baby phase does. And there's a psychological layer here too. New parents are often told they're being financially responsible if they just cover the direct costs. If daycare is paid, if there's food in the fridge, if the bills aren't late, you're doing it right. Society doesn't celebrate the parent who keeps investing $200 a month, even when it's tight. There's no social reward for that, but there is an enormous long-term financial reward. It just takes 30 years to show up. We're not wired to feel proud of invisible long-term wins. We're wired to feel proud of making it through the week. That's not a character flaw. That's just how human brains work. But understanding it is the first step to doing something about it. So what do you actually do with this? First, plan for the pause before it happens. If you're planning to have kids in the next 1 to 3 years, the single most powerful thing you can do is accelerate your investing right now. Over-contribute. Build up the account while you have the financial flexibility. You're essentially pre-investing for the years when you won't be able to. Second, protect even a small amount of investing during the baby years. Even $100 a month feels meaningless when you're drowning in daycare bills. But it is not meaningless. It keeps the habit alive. It keeps the compounding alive. A small ember is far easier to grow back into a fire than starting from ash. Third, have an honest conversation about career decisions before they happen. The financial cost of stepping back from work is real and significant, and it deserves to be part of a deliberate decision, not something that just happens by default because nobody modeled out the numbers. What does 5 years of reduced income actually cost in long-term wealth? Run the math, then decide with eyes open. Fourth, budget for the invisible costs, the convenience spending, the exhaustion-driven decisions, the lifestyle drift. Build a buffer for those things so they don't silently drain the accounts you're trying to protect. And fifth, give yourself grace while staying honest. Parenthood is genuinely one of the most financially disruptive events in a person's life. Pretending otherwise doesn't help anyone, but pretending the financial impact doesn't exist helps even less. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. Nobody regrets having their kids. That's not what this is about. This is about the fact that love doesn't make the math disappear. And the most loving thing you can do for your family, your future self included, is to understand what the real costs are, plan for them honestly, and make decisions that your 60-year-old self will be grateful for. The parents who come out of the baby years financially strong aren't the ones who had more money. They're the ones who knew the hidden costs were coming and built a plan around them. The parenting books will teach you how to swaddle a newborn. They're not going to teach you this, but now you know.